ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Andy Van Beber. His name is Travis Kirkendall. That's all you need to know
Is
because we are the Voice of Reason. And we are here to enlighten you and entertain and make people happy all at the same time. Whether we accomplish that or not without Sean.
You're setting the bar way too high for this episode. Way too high.
Well, Sean always talks it up, and I feel like I need to come with yeah, here we are, we're going to do it, and yeah, and dadgummit, everybody likes it. And I have the hiccups, too, to boot, so, all I needed was Sean's ugly mug to be on here to make me scared, and that would have took care of it, so.
Does
But
that actually work?
you know what, I will find out here in 5 days when I get to see two of my buddies. I don't get to see you, but me and Matt and Sean will be together in Louisville on Saturday or Sunday. And I was trying to talk to Sean tonight, but Sean is, I guess they're leaving to come out here tomorrow, I believe it is. And
Think so?
and
Yeah.
they're going to be in town. And Sean said, I've got to take the dog to the vet. I've got to get everything packed up and get everything. And I was like, yeah, you got a few things busy. So we're trying to. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up too high, but we're hoping that we can maybe work in, have a Matt Edelman sighting or do a recording of the podcast and then play it on.
I hope you guys can pull that off.
That's we're going to see what we can do. But we haven't had Matt. It's been a while since Matt's been on, and usually our ratings shoot through the roof. And I mean that might be just the episode that'll push the German crowd over to the 10% line.
Maybe
So
you'll go over the border. We'll
Belgians or
start
something.
getting the Italians.
Italians. But anyway, how was your weekend, pal?
Weekend was good. We mostly did nothing, which was great. We ate a lot of delicious Venezuelan food, which is like a weekend tradition of ours. We took our dog to the mall for training at the mall, and that was awesome. He had a great time.
So is
Everyone
this
loved
is
him.
same trainer and everything?
Yeah, same trainer. It was like the last class of like this package we did with him, and he did great. I was so proud of him. He had a great time. It was a really fun session, and yeah, I think that's really
And
all we did. How
and
about you?
well, before I get into that, I just, I'm looking at this scary. Oh, can we get it in? This is it's this is
Oh,
the Travis Kirkendall scary view of
well,
the.
that's the gym picture there, but
No, oh, did
that was
go
earlier.
back. I got there. It is okay.
Oh, yeah, that was today.
Was this today? How? Oh my God! Hold on.
So yeah,
I need to turn off the background screen so people can see this. This is.
I can explain that.
Hold
Yeah,
on a
that's the
second.
most I've ever moved on a tower like that. That was kind of
That
wild.
I want to just say that this scared the bejeebers right out of me. This is what our friend Travis does for a living right here. I'm sorry for those of you guys. How far up are you? We is this a
Uh,
couple hundred feet? What is this?
it's over I don't know if that was 120 or 150, somewhere in that range. I didn't check the measurement.
Oh my
I see they
God!
listed, but
I saw that today, and I had to bring that up. I'm sorry to surprise you with that, but I saw that, and I just I
it
was
was
I
windy
was
today.
I
It
was
was really windy.
I was pooping my pants when I saw that. I was just like,
It was sketchy. I mean, that tower was rocking. I mean, God, that thing had to have been moving, I would say like a foot each direction, easy. Like it's how much move. So that steel is like it's a special type of steel they build those towers with. Like it's meant to flex. Like that's completely normal. It's meant for that.
no,
Um,
no,
but
no.
I've never been on it where it moved that much, especially at
How
that
much of
height.
okay?
That was
So how
kind
much
of.
of a sway are we? How much are we talking inches or are we talking feet?
I think we were about a foot all
Oh
directions,
God, no.
which doesn't
Mm.
sound like much, but man,
Oh,
you feel it.
that
That's
sounds like plenty. That is
um yeah,
that
that was kind of interesting. But luckily we
that.
were just up there to kind of take pictures and figure out what we had to do. It's kind of a tricky job. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It's another day.
Another day at the office, and yeah. Well, this Saturday, one of my good close buddies. This is a guy who I was his youth leader back when he was in the 6th grade. He turned 31 this week, and it shows you how long I've been in the youth game to where he's now 31 years old. You know, I mean, I've known him for 19 years, and he's actually a regional manager for Dollar General. I like to have him on sometime. He gives a lot of insights and good insight in the retail world. But we were talking about just, you know, he's almost got me on the fringe of investing in Dollar General. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
They've got they. I'll just say it this way. He shared this goal with me. I don't think I'm out of pocket for sharing this, but Dollar General's goal by 20 was it 24 or 25, that every person in the United States by 2025, I think he said, would be within a 10-minute driving radius of a Dollar General.
Pretty ambitious.
I'm thinking if they're going to throw that much out there, that's pretty cool. But we had a good time.
So
We
just to cover our asses, not financial advice. Don't. V did
don't go
not say
out.
to go buy
Oh
stock
man,
in
give me
Dollar
that
General.
Robinhood app. Give me that Robinhood app up there.
Make your own decisions. We
Yes.
are not professionals. We're just
No, but we had fun. We went bowling, and or Sunday was we we go to church up in Quincy, which is about a 45-minute drive. So we go up in the morning. I go up for morning service, and I'm also the junior high youth director up there. And so we come back home. We get back home by about 1:15, and then we have to turn back around and leave the house at about 3:45, 4 o'clock. You know, so then we go back up to Quincy, and we're up there until 7. Then we come back, and then so Sunday is always just. And so today, and then spring break starts on Wednesday. No, I guess I should put my background back on because I'm in the spring break
yeah.
mood.
Where's the
I'm in the spring break mood that I want to be able to think that I'm going to
what's your
be.
plans for spring break? You guys going big?
Oh,
You going to the Ozarks?
yeah, right. Party.
Going out the you going out to Mark Twain Lake?
Mark Twain Lake. No, I've actually got 2 track meets planned. I mean, just the exact way, but no. Excuse me. I think and then I haven't decided whether I'm going to leave on Saturday because Saturday morning I have to help referee a 3-on-3 basketball tournament over at the Y. So a group of Gen X or Gen Zers and millennials playing basketball, still thinking that they still have it, and listen to them argue with me about calls and stuff. So so it depends on how pissed off I am at the end of the night if I want to go drive to Louisville that night or if I want to wait until Saturday morning. Matt, so I'll tell
Real
you this.
quick, can we cover some local news? What's going on with the track there at Clopton? And you were talking about the track and field, and I just wanted to ask really quick.
Well, we have a high school track coach, which is good. The bond issue is up for vote. What's the first Tuesday in April? I don't know what the date is. April would that be, the 4th or the 5th? We're going to be voting on the bond issue. I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse before talking to you guys about this. I wouldn't mind having Dr. Todd Smith on of our local district, just kind of talk to him about the challenges of a small school district. I don't know
Yeah, that would be great.
I don't know if we'd be able to get him on or not. But we kind of it's been a largely popular response from the community because Clopton, I say something for our staff. Our staff, our grounds people, our maintenance staff does a fantastic job of maintaining what we have. And if you think about this, Travis, you were there. You were there when we did the remodel, right? Or was that after you graduated? When we put the
The remodel.
when we put the air conditioners in the classroom and everything like that, was that before or after you left?
I want to say it was right before I left.
Yeah, so I think it was your junior year, and so that stuff is getting a lot of use, and they want to update the HVAC. We actually want to have lights in the parking lot, which would be a great thing. Having
Yeah, it would.
new parking lots, adding onto our parking lot, um, the track, of course, the baseball field, which is usually a pond and slash lake.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of things planned, and yeah, I think I'd like to talk to Dr. Smith and see if we can get him on,
Yeah, that'd be
um,
great. I'm all for it.
and we also want to give best wishes out. I was bummed as crap Saturday, but our friend Martin Hanley of Pike Lincoln Technical Center has announced his resignation. He's going on to greener pastures down where he started his career at Lincoln or at Lewis and Clark Technical Center, I believe down in Bethalto or Alton. He's going to do, I believe, his last 3 or 4 years down there. It's actually originally where he got his start from. He still listens to us every week. He catches us,
That's
and
awesome.
we want to give our best to Martin. And he said he definitely wants to be on again for whatever reason. He loves our podcast. He is one of our many loyal listeners, and we want to wish our best to Martin in his future endeavors at Lewis and Clark. So, yes. But with all that being said, let's jump headlong into this nightmare of a week. It seems like when we take a week off, that just like the whole world goes to hell in a handbasket, and we have so much to talk about and cover. And I guess we can start. I called this episode "Donald Trump, Russia, and the End of the World as We Know It." So, we are. Let's talk about the Donald Trump case. So Donald
They're
Trump,
trying to arrest the chosen one.
the ch-
I can't let that go. Well, he called himself that, sir.
well, so he it was either Thursday or Friday on his social media, whatever that is, it the Truth or whatever the name he
True
calls
social.
True Social. He announces that on Tuesday that he is going to be arrested. Look out! I'm going to be arrested by the New York police on these trumped up charges. Let me get the exact quote here because it's eerily similar to on the January 6th thing, that what he said and how where was it at? So this was on March 18th, which was it says illegal leaks from a corrupt and highly political Manhattan District Attorney's Office indicate that with no crime being able to be proven, the far and away leading Republican candidates and former President of the United States will be arrested on Tuesday of next week. And he said, protest, take our nation back. Okay, which is eerily similar to what January 6th. Yeah. And so what this is all about, this goes back to the $130,000 hush payment to Stormy Daniels, who's a porn star who apparently had a fling with Donald Trump, I guess, and and this money was given to her via Trump's attorney Michael Cohen, and So Manhattan DA Alvin Braggs, who, by the way, doesn't deny it, and I've done fact check on this. His last campaign was largely funded by one George Soros, who is every Democrat's, you know, dream account, you know. And so I don't know what they're wanting to accomplish by doing this. I did some further investigation. I was just curious because this happened in 2016. So per New York legal site, the statutes of this happened in 2016. The statute of limitations in New York for a misdemeanor is 2 years. The statute of limitations for a felony is 5 years, and this happened in 2016. What are they trying? I don't unless I'm missing something somewhere. I don't get what this is about because
Yeah, because
he can't. I mean, by New York's own, they can't do anything to him, can they?
from what you're telling me, it does. I don't think so. And I was reading this article on NPR, and this was what kind of confused me too, going off what you just said. Apparently, the attorney, his attorney, Susan, I can't pronounce her last name, she told the news that apparently his speculation of getting arrested was completely based off media reports,
Yes.
and that his legal team hasn't even been contacted or notified of any kind of indictments. So it almost, I feel like this is some kind of political, hey, look at this kind of deal, you know? Like I don't think he seriously gets arrested. Like if Trump hadn't been arrested by now for something,
Right.
the man's not going to get arrested. I mean, let's be real.
Well, the
Guy's
grand.
probably done much shadier things than pay off a former porn star for.
Well, yeah, and the grand jury's not even done.
Yeah,
The grand jury's not even done. They were meeting today. Where's my
I
so
think this
this
is literally just trying anything they can do to get people to not vote for Trump.
and it says
That's
workers
on
erected. So
surface.
so this was today. Workers erected barricades around a Manhattan courthouse on Monday as New York City braced for a possible indictment of Donald Trump over an alleged. And I'm like, how, and like you said, this, for the way I understand this, it was almost like Donald Trump got this from, and the prosecuting attorney's office confirmed there was no leak by anybody of anything to anyone of any sort. And basically, what it's looking like is Donald Trump got a tip from a friend of a friend of a friend. It's like a bad case of telephone, you
Yeah,
know?
for real.
I mean, hey, you're going to be arrested Tuesday, you know? And what I found was really interesting about this, Travis, was that all of the usual suspects who were behind the whole, January 6th thing, our good buddy Alex, from Infowars, or
Alex Jones.
Alex
Alex
Jones.
Jones.
Alex Jones is like, yeah, I'm going to sit on the sidelines. He was quoted as saying this morning on his whatever his podcast or whatever he does now. I'm gonna, I don't have I'm too busy fighting the government, and another one of the organizers of the January 6th is like, yeah, we're just, to me, is is this the desperate act of is this the desperate last act of Donald Trump? I mean, he wants to, if this is him trying to scare up, hey, we need to get on the ball here, and we need to, what can we do to stir the crap up and get me some more attention? I mean, that's the only way
Yeah,
that I can really relate to this, is that, or even get anything out of this. I mean, is he trying to get attention? Is this
yeah. The whole call for protest. That was the thing that most concerned me when I originally read this was just him saying that, like I read the post and I was like, kind of what you said, like, oh, here we go, another January 6th thing. But it seems like from what I was reading that people are kind of a little hesitant this time to, you know, go save our country, whatever he had put in that message. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll go both ways with it. It's also pretty petty of the Democratic Party because let's be real, they're definitely behind the charges.
Well, yeah.
But 'cause you said George Soros pays this attorney, right?
Well, George Soros was largely behind Alvin Bragg. And this, by the way, this DA, and just a few side notes about this DA. This guy is soft on crime. Upon coming into office, he was going to do some what he called legal reform, and this reform included taking certain charges like armed robbery and like second degree assault and stuff like this down to just being a misdemeanor. And since he's done this, crime in New York has climbed by, and the number I got today was 26%. And so
I
this
believe
guy,
it.
I'm thinking, dude, you've got bigger fish to fry
Exactly.
than to do this. I don't know if George Soros just got an itch in his craw and said, "Man, we need to do something about Donald Trump. We haven't." And you guys, I am by no fan of Donald Trump or Joe Biden, but and I thought it was kind of ironic that even Ron DeSantis made a statement and said, "Look, I don't know anything about sleeping with porn stars and paying them off, but I can say," I thought, well, he can't go without giving a stab on it. But he said, this is a pretty pathetic attempt. I mean, it's obvious of where it comes from. You have this DA in New York who is George Soros funded, and he's not. I mean, he didn't even try to cover up the fact that he's a friend of George Soros. And to me, this is
But,
this is petty politics. I don't think.
but
Go ahead.
I just want to play. I want to play devil's advocate on one thing
Hmm.
because it's kind of ridiculous that because Trump is who he is, he's a politician. He's got a lot of money. He's very famous. Does he just get away with it though? Is it just can
Well,
he
I
just
mean, by the statute of
I mean, I
limitations,
guess
he
it's
has.
a
I mean,
petty thing, right? And yeah, I guess you're right. He has gotten away with it, and but it's so funny to me that everyone's like, oh, it's not a big deal because it's Trump, because it's who he is. It's this guy on this platform. It's like if it was any of us that had done something like
oh,
that, I
we would
feel,
have been busted.
yeah, but and I'm not just trying to go after Trump. I mean, we could, I can already hear people on the right saying, well, what about the Biden laptop, the Hunter Biden laptop or stuff like that? And I get it. That's a whole other topic. I'm not going to go there tonight, but I'm just trying to make the case that,
And
I feel
here,
like too many times they get let off the hook for just, well, it's not a big deal because it's him. It's like, well,
and here's my question: what does this have to do with the grander scheme of things? Exactly.
exactly.
This has nothing to do with a man's ability to lead.
I think there's much bigger headlines we could
We
cover
we
that, or
have
should
we
we,
have
which we're going to get into,
we're
but
we
it's
are
like,
go- we're not going to spend too much more time on this, but I think that there's so much more that we need to be focusing on instead of this partisan. Let's I mean, good God, we're still a year away. Almost a year and we're over a year and a half away from the election, and it's too early. It really is too early to start firing guns at each other. Really, I
oh,
mean,
they're
just
on it. They're already
the
going.
slime machine. I mean, just all the Sleepy Joe comments and all. Over the weekend, Donald Trump was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the NCAA wrestling championships of all things, and and he really, and surprisingly, he didn't really make any comments. He didn't say anything about the arrest coming up. He did all his talking on Truth Social. So I
That's why I
mean,
don't think it's a serious thing.
yeah, I think that this is
I
going
think
to.
it's like, hey, look at this thing here. Don't look at. all
Don't
this.
don't look at the
Let's not
man.
talk about the banks collapsing right now. Let's not talk about
Let's not talk
the
about
other
North
stuff which we're
Korea.
going to
Let's
get
not
into.
talk
But
about China, Russia, or
yeah,
anything like that. Let's create. And I'm not going to go into that tangent of how we've covered that tangent many times about how the news media likes to do smoke and mirrors and oh, don't look at the
I
man
don't know.
behind the
I don't
curtain.
want to sound like a broken record, but I think the people get
Yeah.
it.
So, but we move from that and we move into what happened in or what is happening as we speak in Moscow. As of well, it would have been what was it 2:25 a.m. local time here in Central Time Zone. Deng Xiao or what is that guy's name? Is it Deng Xiaoping? Is that his name? The president of China. He
I don't know how to
he
say his name.
he arrived in Moscow. Um, Conveniently enough to talk about that this was a meeting that had been on the books for months and that they were going to come together and talk about world strategy and planning and all this other stuff and whether this is going to involve the Ukraine or not. Sources are saying that Vladimir Putin is going to present his case to Deng Xiaoping to say, here's what we're doing and why we're doing it. Okay. Historically speaking, and then I'll turn it to you, Travis, but historically speaking, the Chinese Russia relationship within the last 20 years has just started to rebuild itself. Okay. They kind of fell out of love after the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the 60s. And they kind of had, when China made the comment, and it was that Russia was like a paper tiger, and they had no real teeth, and they had no real balls, and they didn't have any. There was nothing they could do to go after America, and they were scared. They were scared out of their mind. And then Russia went their way, and then in the 80s, the communism fell, and China buckled down and showed this is what a real man looks like. This is what a real communist party looks like. And now with the arrival of Vladimir Putin, who is, we've said many times on this podcast, is a Cold War relic. He is a Cold War KGB throwback, and he does the talk tough. In the early 2000s when they took the Crimean Peninsula, and with basically little response from the rest of the world. But when you go into the Ukraine, which carries one of the largest, European pipelines through it, and it has, it provides a large portion. It's called Europe's bread basket for a reason. And now we're taking notice. Well, I mean, what's your, before we get to talking about this meeting, what's your initial impression of what do you think's going on here?
I'm just gonna put it all out right now. I'm gonna start with a quote. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Before the Chinese president has met with Putin, he met with Zelensky. He had a meeting with Zelensky. What came out of that meeting, I don't know yet. I haven't really seen any articles about that. But think of what China has to gain from a positive relationship with Ukraine. If they're able to come to some kind of agreement or some kind of deal, they get grain, they get oil, resources that China doesn't
Oh,
usually get. They have an open door to get a lot of it.
they're
Ukraine has a lot of
they're hurting for it
resources.
right now. Yeah.
Now let's look at the meeting with Putin, right? Say if, let's say that this meeting goes well, whatever your definition of well is, and the war is over. Russia, Ukraine come to an agreement due to a deal that China worked out between the two,
Mm-hmm.
right?
We'll talk
Number
about
one,
that.
that deal is going to work out in China's benefit, 100%. It's going to. And let me just say, too, I am all for this war ending. I think this war does need to end. And I would like to see it go in Ukraine's favor and that they get to keep their territories. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But to go back to this meeting, so what does China have to gain? The U.S., there's no denying that the U.S. has been an aggressor in this. This has been a proxy war.
Yes.
And I'm not saying Russia's innocent by any means, but we have been supplying weapons, money. We have been supporting Ukraine throughout this entire war. All
Hmm.
of NATO has, but US by far has been the largest contributor. If China can show that they are the peacekeepers, they are the ones that
Oh,
made
they're
the
going to
deal.
win. They're going to win.
They are the ones that are not the aggressors. How does that narrative look to the rest of the world and on the West, right? The US now looks like the bad guys
Yep.
and China looks like the good guys. And I think you start to see a change and a shift. And that's what concerns me.
Well,
And
let me read a few excerpts. This is something else I pulled up today. So this was issued on the 24th of, and Travis, I will send a copy over of this to you right now. But
please do.
this was this was a statement that was this is actually on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. Let me make sure I get this sent to and I can send this to Travis so he can see this too. But what this is a China's position on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis, and I had heard about this, and I found it very interesting, and you should have it here in a second, Travis. It says so. These are some of the goals. This is basically the Chinese peace plan. Number one on the list: respecting the sovereignty of all countries, universally recognized international law, including the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, must be strictly observed. That's a bold statement for China, for someone who wants to walk into Taiwan and take them over. So let's put that on the back burner just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
The sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of all countries must be effectively upheld. All countries, big or small, strong or weak, rich or poor, are members of the international community. Again, remember Taiwan. All parties should jointly uphold the basic norms governing international relations and defend international fairness and justice. Equal and uniform application of international law should be promoted, while double standards must be rejected. Good God in heaven, please remember that when you start licking your lips towards Taiwan. There's some other interesting ones in here. They talk about abandoning the Cold War mentality. The number three and four thing, this is their heart and soul here. Ceasing hostilities. Conflict and war will benefit no one. All parties must stay rational and exercise restraint, avoiding fanning the flames and aggravating tensions. Number four, resuming peace talks, dialogue, and negotiation are the only viable solution to the Ukraine crisis. And then they say resolving the humanitarian crisis, protecting POWs, keeping nuclear power plants safe. And then the other one that caught my eye was the number 8 thing here: reducing strategic risk. Nuclear weapons must not be used, and nuclear wars must not be fought.
This next one I find very interesting with what I just said about Ukraine, but
Yeah,
go ahead and get into it.
yeah. So, and then number 9, facilitating grain exports. All parties need to implement the Black Sea Grain Initiative signed by Russia, Turkey, Ukraine, and the UN fully and effectively in a balanced manner, and support the UN in playing an important role in this regard. This cooperation initiative on the global food security proposed by China provides a feasible solution to the global food crisis. And then number 10, this is where the United States gets rubbed raw right here. Stopping unilateral sanctions. That would mean dropping sanctions on Russia. Unilateral
Mm-hmm.
sanctions and maximum pressure cannot solve the issue. They only create new problems. China opposes unilateral sanctions unauthorized by the UN Security Council. And so they're saying directly but not indirectly, or indirectly but not directly, this is the sanctions that the U.S. has imposed upon Russia. Okay, and so this is the United States kind of taking that glancing blow, and we're not crazy about this statement, but to me, you know, China wants to urge peace and promote talks. Now, this is according to their foreign spokesperson. Okay, so, and it goes back to what you just said, Travis. This is China. They're playing the game perfectly. They're playing the game
They have
perfectly.
everything they gain from this.
Oh yeah, they come out. They come, like you said, they come out looking like the bad guy. Hey, communism isn't that bad. Look how we're doing it. Our people are happy. Look at our GDP in our country. Look how much we're. Look at our trade. Look at this. Look at that. Look at America being the bad guy. Look at America being the aggressor. Look at America funneling all these weapons into the Ukraine and drone attacks and missile attacks and jets and all this stuff. I mean, this is a true. I think this is a true. I mean, this is a beautiful power play. This is a beautiful power play by China, and I, what I would expect to come out of this meeting, and then I want to hear your side of this. What I expect to come out of this meeting is simply this. I think Putin's going to try to lay the schmooze on. I think he's going to try to say, okay, hey, why don't you give me a little bit of, back me up, because he's using. I mean, Putin is using Cold War relic planes and airline pilots to fly these ancient planes. And I mean, Deng Xiaoping's going to have to make the strong call if they're going to go behind what they say they're going to do. I mean, he's got to stick to his guns and say, "Look, let's get this over with and let's move on to bigger and better things." I don't know if there's an alternate agenda. What do you think?
I don't know if you saw, but recently Putin also showed up at one of the Russian-controlled, I guess you call territories of Ukraine, like one that they like took over. And he did this like right before the Chinese president came, like a day or two before. So I almost wonder if the end goal, or like what the treaty would be, is that Russia keeps these territories, whatever ones that they want, that were originally trying to get, I guess. And that's kind of like the agreement. And then there's like a ceasefire. Now, whether Zelensky and Ukraine actually go for that, I don't know. And if they don't agree to it, I see. Here's what I'm curious about. Say if China and Russia unite and say, okay, these are the terms, and Ukraine says, no, fuck that, we're fighting. Like, this is our land. 'Cause that's kind of been their mentality throughout this whole thing. It's like, we're gonna fight to the death. And if that comes to that, and Ukraine refuses, is the U.S. then going to keep funneling money and resources to Ukraine and continuing the fight? Because if so, that just makes us look worse, I think. Kind of makes us look more like the bad guys, because then China could say, look, we tried to promote peace. We've tried, and look what the U.S. is doing. They're encouraging these people to keep fighting. And I remember when this whole war first started, and I was very much against Russia, and I still am. I don't think they
Mm-hmm.
should have ever invaded Ukraine.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I'm not denying that the U.S. has undoubtedly been a big part of this. We've been doing this kind of thing for years. But kind of lost where I was going with
Well,
that. I don't think
how are you
following.
gonna?
I don't agree with how far the U.S. has gone with it. Is where I was getting at. I don't agree with how far we've gone with pushing and pushing and pushing this anti-Russia. Here's all this money. Here's these weapons that of just. I think we've taken it way too far, and I think the U.S. is at a point now where I don't think we know what to do at this point. I think we're in another. I know it's different, but I think we're in another Afghanistan, Iraq
Okay,
situation
so
where like
that's
we've
okay.
thrown ourselves in this fire, and now we're like,
Okay,
shit,
so that's
what do we do now?
that's my next question. Then that's my next question. What's the exit strategy? Because we can't have an Afghanistan 2.0. We cannot have we can't have an Afghanistan 2.0 where we totally pull out with our tail between our legs, running like a scalded dog. We
and that's
cannot
what
do that.
Yeah. And this is what pisses me off. And it's a shame on us. If we pull out and say, you know what, we're done. Ukraine, you're on your own. We screwed Ukraine
Yeah.
because, from my understanding, I don't have specific stuff in front of me, but from my understanding, the rumor was there was peace talks early stages in the war, and they were
Yes.
almost to an agreement.
Yes.
And the U.S. told Zelensky, "Do not take the deal." And then it was right around after that deal is when we started pumping way more money and weapons to Ukraine, and we went all out in this proxy war. So to do that, people are lose thousands more people lose their lives, homes destroyed, villages and cities just destroyed. The country is ruined after that decision. And then we say, okay, we're done, figure it out.
Oh yeah.
Man, that was, and that's that. And honestly, at this point, and I don't think nuclear war is going to come of this. I
No.
don't think that's going to happen. This is my biggest fear at that point is that we leave Ukraine out to dry and they get screwed. But at the same time, if there is a peace deal and Ukraine gets to keep some of their sovereignty, I mean, is that, like, do we accept that? I mean, I think it comes down to does Ukraine accept that? And I don't know if they accept that. And if they don't accept that and continue fighting and we abandon them,
We
that's my biggest worry if they just go down.
at the end of February, the UN Human Rights Office data reported 8,000 non-combatants have been confirmed killed. A lot of those children. Okay, that in and of itself is enough to rub me raw. Okay, how this has been a dirty war. Dirty.
Oh, I think I've seen footage of them dropping like white phosphorus on cities and shit. Like I've seen some wild footage of that.
Yes.
There's been war crimes.
There's war
for sure.
And let's go ahead and let's address that issue too. The international court on Thursday issued a warrant for the arrest of Vladimir Putin.
It won't go through.
I know it won't go through because
China making this is a big game change.
Right.
It's curious because they've been mostly quiet with this whole conflict until recently. And I think that was very smart of them to do that. I mean, I think they've been planning this all along. They've been sitting back watching this whole situation develop and waiting for the opportunity to come in.
Well, you and I had this conversation a long time ago when I bet you if I scroll back far enough in our group chat, it would probably be back about 6 or 7 months. I know it was during the summer when how the rest of the world was basically ignoring all these moves that China was making towards Taiwan, and how Australia was the only one who was saying, you do something there, we're going to go to war. And I think that this is kind of like China sitting back and just saying, okay, what Ukraine took the first step. Let's see what they do. Okay. And you of all people know that I have always said in my classroom that history repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
If I could rewind just briefly, I'm not going to bore everybody with a boring history lesson, but I just want to point out that in 1931, okay, this is between World War I and World War II. By this time, Mussolini had been in control in Italy for 6 years. Hitler was not quite to the rise in power where he needed to be. And Japan was being ruled by a bunch of military. They had basically a militaristic coalition government. And in 1931, they invade Manchuria. They go in and they invade Manchuria. At this time, there was no United Nations. There was a League of Nations. The League of Nations basically did a slap on the wrist, they imposed sanctions against Japan. And Japan said, the heck with you. And that was part of the reason why they invaded Manchuria, was to gain more natural resources.
Sounds familiar.
And the rest of the world community was still in this whole, kumbaya afterglow from World War I, from the Kellogg-Briand peace talks, from the Washington Naval Conference, and they were sitting back, and we're just gonna, we're gonna let this play out. Okay, so now, as the world did nothing, then you enter into, and then you fast forward ahead to where Italy then attacks Ethiopia, and Ethiopian king at the time was a guy by the name of Haile Selassie, goes before the League of Nations, and he says, I need help. And if you don't, he said, today it is us and tomorrow it will be you. And the League of Nations did nothing, and Ethiopia fell. Then Germany goes in and they start marching into Czechoslovakia. Well, this is part of the Sudetenland, and then the Rhineland, and there was this,
and Taiwan's part of China,
right? And through all of this appeasement, what you end up getting is well, we're keeping the peace, okay? So now here's China. Pulling what I would say was what Mussolini and what Hitler were doing, kind of sitting back off to the side and watching this play out over. And I've always thought this. I made this connection in my mind a long time ago, that China's sitting back and they're watching, and they've been watching this as long as the rest of the world has. They haven't been saying. This is the first time a world leader has come to visit Vladimir Putin since the invasion of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Deng Xiaoping, he's going to come in. I would love to be a fly on that wall just to hear. I mean, worst case scenario, China's going to fund Russia. China's going to give them some weapons. Best case scenario.
That's a good point. I think that's worst case scenario.
Yeah, because if that happens, then we're into a, to use your term, we're in a proxy world war. We're not in a world war, but we're in a proxy world war.
So let me ask you this. So going off what you just said, so say theoretically China comes out and says we are going to fund Russia in this war. How long after that decision do you think China invades Taiwan?
Not very long. I mean, because if nobody, and pardon this expression, but if nobody has the balls to put real skin in the game, and I'm not talking about just missiles and drones and planes and technical advisors. If nobody has the balls to put skin in the game and say, we're going to put boots on the ground. But people don't want that, because that's a sign of escalation. And then that is war. And in experiences past, you need, in order to get a worldwide support for such an action, you need a secondary event to happen. You need a Pearl Harbor bombing that was, you need a Russian attack. You need a Chinese attack. So to answer your question, if China comes out of this and they say, okay, we're going to fund you and we're going to take on our action in Taiwan, I still don't think that's enough to warrant us getting boots on the ground.
We won't do it.
No.
I don't see the U.S. doing it. And I want a diplomatic solution. I do not want boots on the ground. I'm not calling for. I know early, and I think I did say when the Ukrainian invasion first happened that we need to put boots on the ground. I was pretty fired up at the time. I would like to see a diplomatic solution, because let's be real, if boots go on the ground, we're having World War III.
Yes.
There's no way around it. There will be a third world war. I'm 27 years old. I'm gonna be there. It's gonna happen.
And let's talk about.
I really hope.
Can we bring in the other connection here with this? Strangely enough, then, as this visit is getting ready to happen,
yeah, let's get to that.
North Korea launches another, and I had the class of missile here that it was. Where was it? Then this actually happened. So the Russians, the Chinese, and the U.S. diplomats at the UN today at the Security Council basically argued about why North Korea is doing these new nuclear tests. All right, so these new nuclear tests are going on, and they're saying, okay, you guys are the United States is pushing this, and it says the launch.
I wish I had the article. The language that their media uses is wild. Like, I don't have it, but like the way they refer to us is like they call us what not like the invaders, but like the God, they refer to a West as like I wish I had it in front of me.
Well,
It's just some crazy language that their government media used.
so this launch on Thursday of its the newest class of nuclear weapons that they have, it's called the Hwasong 17 intercontinental ballistic missile. Okay, so North Korea, just for North Korea has been under sanctions since 2006. Okay, and so China and Russia blamed the joint military drills that the United States and South Korea have been doing, that they're provoking that they provoke. Maybe this is the language you're looking at, that they're provoking Pyongyang, the government Pyongyang, to, you know, they're amping this up by doing their joint military exercise, while Beijing and Moscow is emboldening North Korea by shielding it from more sanctions. So this is what the UN Secretary General said today. It says that he remains deeply concerned over the divisions that have prevented the international community from acting on this matter. And then the Russian, the so uh, this is what the U.S. ambassador said to the UN today. She said she's talking about the military exercise. She said these exercises are long-standing, they are routine, they're purely defensive in nature. The United States harbors no hostile intents towards the DPRK, which is the formal Democratic People's Republic of Korea. But everybody's throwing this. It's you. No, it's you. And then Russia and China then raise. They show their hand out on the table. They say, okay, so if you have no ill will, then what is this? They have this concern over a security pact known as AUKUS, which will see Australia develop a nuclear powered submarine program with the United States and Britain. Okay, so now instead of de-escalating, so it goes back to this whole thing of double standards. Okay, you don't want North Korea to have nuclear weapons, but yet you're going to bring Australia, who isn't in the nuclear scene. They have a few ballistic missiles, but you're going to bring Australia full circle in, and you're going to make them. And I mean, you don't have to be the head, mechanic at Jiffy Lube to know that this is just bringing more guns to the fight on our side in that part of the world by putting a nuclear navy in Australia's arsenal. So
Yeah, it's
all of this, and that's why I called this podcast tonight, the episode, "The End of the World as We Know It," because all of these things are playing in together, and I'm like, holy crap! Why don't we? I'm for cooler heads prevail, but right now there's not a cool head in the room.
I found what I was talking about with the
Go
language that
ahead.
the Korea media uses. Shout out Northern Provisions as always.
There it is.
So here we go. North Korea state media stated the missile launch was in response to, and this is quoted, provocative and invasive large-scale drills by the United States and South Korea. And they're quoting them directly here. The enemies are intentionally escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula while persistently resorting to irresponsible and reckless military threats in defiance to the DPRK severe warnings. I don't have the other one, but like they were like talking to their people as if like we are protecting you and we are going to keep our country safe from these invaders, and like it was like there was more to it. It was absolutely insane, like the state media that they
and,
put out there to be
and yet
there.
the humanitarian crisis on the ground in North Korea is staggering.
Well, who is it, Russia or China that's like the head of the humanitarian
Chinese.
yeah.
The Chinese,
And
of all
who, and
people,
we were talking before this, who basically owns North Korea?
the Chinese.
And I want to say this too. Isn't it ironic that at the same time that China is going to Putin for these peace talks, an article, and or not even an article, the North Korea comes out, the government comes out and starts making these threats of nuclear war all at the same time. It's just like, I don't know, foreign policy and like this kind of stuff gets me all fired up. I love talking about it, but God, this is a very interesting development with China. Like I've been, and
So,
there's like nothing out of it coming out yet. Like I'm
uh,
still like very on edge, like what's gonna come from that
if you
meeting.
want a good picture, and Travis and I were talking about this prior to the podcast, or maybe we talked about it. Um, so Yeonmi Park, who is a young North Korean national, wrote a book called "In Order to Live." She was on Joe Rogan. It's been a while back right now,
It was
and
about a year or so.
yeah, and if you haven't, I've got this book. I am about halfway through it, and I want to tell you, it's a short read. It's a short read. You could do it. You could read this in two settings, but it is a lot to stomach because it's about her and her mother basically, crossing the Yellow River and getting into China and trying to escape from North Korea, and basically being human trafficked, and how much China and North Korea are in bed with each other, and just a lot of the things that are going on. But the name of that book again is called "In Order to Live" by Yeonmi Park, and highly, highly. I mean, I'm not all the way through it yet, but highly, highly recommend this book. But it plays perfectly into saying what China's, you know, this whole thing, what this is going to be, and we can end with this. What do we do as normal everyday citizens as we go through this life? Well, one thing that I'm going to recommend to our listeners and to our viewers, and we've had a few viewers who've popped in and out tonight. Take this with a grain of salt.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay,
It's not.
we are in a chaotic world at all times. There's always a finger that is looming over the button. There is always a hotter head in the room than us, and sometimes we're the hotter head in the room. And right now, we are in a. This is my own political. This isn't necessarily the voice. This isn't the everybody in the voice of reason saying this, but this is my. We have all the wrong leaders in all the wrong places right now. We had, not a Barack Obama fan, but he was a diplomatist. Barack Obama was a
Mm.
diplomatist. He knew how to talk to other countries. He knew how to work with other countries. George W. Bush, when we were attacked on 9/11, knew how to work with the UN. Okay? Right now, our political leader, we're so busy fighting each other. The Russians couldn't be more happier, by the way, that we have all of this infighting going on. We talk about the Trump thing at the top of the show. This is the smoke and mirrors. Oh, look over here, the behind. Let's not focus on the bigger picture, what's going on over here. Okay, let's focus on this little nothing incident here. So you're not looking at the bigger picture. We need to be mindful of what's going on in the world, but also realize that you shouldn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah.
You know,
And I would like to end with go off of that. Look, when people say, I'm not trying to insult religion by any means, but I've always heard Christians say, like, oh, we're in the end times. I've heard that statement growing up so many times of Travis, I just pay attention. We're in the end times. And look, people probably thought the world was going to end during the Crusades. people probably thought the world was going to end when Nazi Germany was crossing over borders and killing Jews and
Yep.
that kind of stuff.
Yep.
People thought the world was going to end during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yep.
I mean, this is nothing new. And so to say that the world's going to, going off this, the name of the episode was The World's Ending, but I don't think the world's ending.
No, I did that. I'm sorry, folks. I did that in total sarcasm. I did that in total sarcasm. But, and from.
I wanted to go off of what you said there.
And let me say this from the Christian standpoint. Our pastor made, this was last week's sermon, not yesterday's sermon, but last week's sermon. And the title of the sermon is "I Struggle with Fear." And his point was basically this, and I'll say this to the evangelicals and the Christians who listen to us. There's not a thing where God says, "Oh, that one got by me." This is part of the bigger plan. We don't know. And if there's somebody out there, and I'm going to call BS on any preacher, anybody who thinks they have their pulse on God's timetable and saying, this is the end of the world. Okay. The Bible plainly states that no one knows the hour. No one knows the hour or the time. So what are we to be doing? As Christians or as normal U.S. citizens or whoever, you live your life. You live your life and try to get along with other people. Mm-hmm. Love on other people. Let's worry about building back our own bridges in this country. Let's worry about people.
Let's rebuild them trains. Let's get them train tracks fixed.
Instead of here's an idea. Instead of going after, Donald Trump and things like this and worrying about drag queen shows and everything, how about we regulate the railroads and focus on, I don't know, multi-billion-dollar banks failing? Why don't we maybe focus on these things? Maybe that might be I know, right? Let's focus on the real problems. And that, my friends,
real quick, let's place your bets. So, do you think
wait a minute.
This time next week, do you think there will be possible peace of the war, or do you think China's going to come out and say they're funding Russia? Which do you think? And we'll touch base next week and see what happens.
All right, I'm going to make note of it right now at 10:02 on March 20th. Okay.
I'll tell you right now, I think there is some type of peace solution that comes from this. I think China has nothing to gain from funding Russia in a war.
I'm on record. I'm on record here saying you can't say, but peace talks right there. I'm writing my bet right down there. This is my scratch pad that I have that I use during the show. So we'll see how close we are to that. But
I know we said don't panic and stuff, but man, if China attacks Russia and starts funding them guns, we might be fucked.
I know. It's like just bend over, put your head between your legs, and kiss your booty goodbye, because that's the whole.
It might be the end of the world.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, but there you go. So hey, thank you for listening tonight. As always, we haven't mentioned it in a while, but the Voice of Reason podcast is sponsored by American Traditional Coffee. We are also sponsored by Van Beber and Son DJ. We are up to 9 events, Travis. We have scheduled 9 events for this year. And
holy smokes.
This is a busy retire
at the end of the year.
I was at the beginning of the year, I was like, man, I don't know if we're going to have very many jobs this year. We've blown up. And I'll say it again, mention this. If you mention Voice of Reason when you contact me via Facebook, and you mention the Voice of Reason, 15% off your total contract price. You heard it here first, folks. So,
and if you use Voice of Reason code on the American Traditional site, you save 10%.
Man, get you some of that coffee. I got to talk to Sean and see if
there actually is no coffee currly, but we have shirts and mugs on the store. Coffee coming soon. We're making some changes right now.
Fat guy friendly. Fat guy.
I got double XL.
Okay. All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. Travis, this has been great. I love this
This was a
episode.
fun one.
Yeah,
I
this
had a
is
fun with
great.
it,
We
this
flew
episode.
through it tonight. Anyway, so we'll see you all next week. We'll see if maybe we can have some special guests next week. Keep your fingers
If
crossed.
anybody has suggestions for a topic, hit us up.
Yep,
If there's
definitely.
something you want covered, hit us up. We want feedback. Please give us feedback. Please.
Definitely.
Negative or positive, just something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
All
all I
right.
got.
See you guys next week. We love you all. See ya.
Good night.